Hello, everybody. This is AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. Thank you for joining me today. Day after the championship games in the NFL, the AFC championship game and the NFC championship game was, well, it was thrilling, but just for different reasons. The Patriots and the Broncos, Manning Brady 17, was thrilling because it was actually a thrilling game. It was actually it came down to the wire, though it just never felt like the Patriots were the team that were in control of everything. And why should it have felt that way? The Patriots don't have an offensive line. I've been saying this for weeks. The Patriots offensive line has been held together by some paper clips, some string, some silly putty, and they just strung the whole thing together. I think they did an amazing job for what they had. They're not healthy. They haven't been healthy. Like all season long, they haven't been healthy. You're just rotating guys out of position on the offensive line in some kind of patchwork attempt to fix it back together. And the Denver Broncos took complete advantage. Got to Tom Brady a record number of times, roughed him up, knocked him around. And I said this last Thursday. Tom Brady does not do well under pressure. No quarterback does well under pressure. Nobody does. But you're so used to him just being poised in the pocket and standing tall and making all of the throws that he wants to make, and more or less just manipulating the defense to his will, that when he doesn't do that, it looks worse on him than it does most people, because his standard is so usually high. But Tom under pressure is not any different than any other quarterback under pressure. He's throwing off his back foot. He's throwing as he gets hit. I mean, that looked like some Eli Manning stuff. It did. It just didn't look good. And again, nobody would look good under those circumstances. There's not one quarterback. Okay, maybe Cam. Maybe Cam would look good under those circumstances. I would like to see Cam as a Patriot, but what you have is Tom Brady, possibly the greatest quarterback to ever do it, but under pressure, he's like everybody else. He's going to make bad decisions. He's not going to be able to put the ball exactly where he wants to go. That's what pressure does. And the Broncos defense played like the best defense in the league. And I don't think they're getting enough credit. And honestly, it's what gives Denver an opportunity to win the Super Bowl. I mean, they've got a shot. They're not my pick just yet. But I was watching the game. I went to Red Robin to watch the game. And, my brother is just convinced, like, the Panthers are just going to steamroll the Broncos. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. I might bring him on later in the week so we can talk about that, because here's the thing. The Super Bowl is like the only game where 14 days ahead of that game, we just have to sit there and talk about it. I'm not interested in talking about the Super Bowl until like next week. But I will be talking about the Super Bowl from now, like everyone else is, because that's all anybody wants to talk about. You talk about what people want to talk about. I just don't care. Like, I just don't. Like, I want to care, but I'll care next week. Like 2 weeks of Super Bowl hype, I just don't like it. You ask all the boring questions, journalists and media members that haven't been here all season long and don't know anything, just start showing up and asking questions, and they're usually ridiculous, stupid, asinine. I'm not interested in Super Bowl media week. It's awful. It's just awful. And it starts now and it continues into next week and it gets worse next week. But at least we're close enough to the Super Bowl that it means something, But my brother is convinced that the Broncos are not capable of winning the Super Bowl against the Panthers, which I don't think is true. Peyton Manning has been brilliant for the role that the Denver Broncos have asked him to do. He hasn't been brilliant overall, and it hasn't been a brilliant season. But Peyton Manning isn't superstar Peyton Manning anymore. He's game manager Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's an elite game manager. What his mind allows him to do as a game manager, you're not going to find a better guy. He makes enough of the throws. He doesn't make the stupid mistakes. And he's able to hit the big play when it shows itself because he's mentally prepared to do so. And I mean, he missed a few throws yesterday, but you could see mentally he was capable of putting the Patriots away. Just physically, he wasn't. He missed a couple of throws. Touchdown throws. He missed a couple of touchdown throws. The Broncos just had the better team, and that defense is unreal. If Peyton Manning doesn't make the big mistake, which he hasn't been, he's got enough rest because he's got 2 weeks before the Super Bowl, and that defense is elite, Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos are perfectly capable of winning a low-scoring game. If the game gets out of hand, it's because the Panthers are winning. If the game is low, that's what the Broncos want. That's Denver territory. They love that ugly, hideous nonsense where you're just fumbling nonsensically, and they like that. When the game gets hideous, that's perfect for the Denver Broncos. They're not going to be playing in cold weather. All of the things that we have out on Peyton Manning, things that we are critical of him about. He's not playing in the cold. He doesn't have to go out and win them one. Yesterday, he had a 12-yard scramble that just... Boy, does anybody take longer to get to top speed than Peyton Manning and Tom Brady? Brady had a 13-yard scramble. Does anybody take longer to get to top speed than either of those guys? My goodness. Like, I watched the highlights of that game after I watched the Panthers, and watching Cam Newton run and then going back and watching Manning and Brady run, Manning and Brady look like they're stuck in molasses. They just look like they're in quicksand. They're not going anywhere. The legs are churning as fast as humanly possible, and they're not moving in any direction at all. Cam Newton is a tank with speed. Like, it's night and day. It's night and day, those two guys. So I think the Broncos proved in that game against the Patriots that they are perfectly capable of neutralizing an offense that's really good. That's really good. And I was listening out today for sports news, and the Broncos didn't blitz in that game. Not really. And for those of you who know their defensive coordinator, Wade Phillips loves to blitz. There's nothing that Wade Phillips likes more than a really good blitz. He's blitz happy. I mean, one of the criticisms of Wade Phillips is that he won't stop blitzing. Like, he'll just do it. But like in the NFL, that kind of pressure really works. That's why you saw the Jets successful with it for much of the season, even though they shouldn't have had the talent to compete at the level that they were competing at. Todd Bowles and the Jets, they blitz a lot. Arizona, they blitz a lot. But yesterday, Wade Phillips, who blitzes a lot, didn't blitz at all. Not really. Forced the Patriots to beat them in one-on-one matchups. And they did. And Aqib Talib was just all over the place. Aqib Talib was everywhere for the Denver defense. And I mean, dude looked unstoppable. He guarded Gronk on a play and stopped him. It was the same Titanic Rob Gronkowski who you can only tackle because, by hitting his knees, which he doesn't like, but I don't know. How else are you supposed to bring that guy down? He's a monument. He's a giant person. I mean, you got to take out his legs. So, yeah, I think the Broncos are perfectly capable of winning a Super Bowl. And on the other side, the Panthers, the Carolina Panthers, made Arizona look so bad. And people were talking about Arizona like they weren't trying hard, like they weren't putting in the effort. They were just getting beaten down. That's just not a good matchup for them, what the Panthers do. What the Panthers do defensively, they let Carson Palmer hang himself yesterday. Carson Palmer and the Arizona Cardinals, what they love to do is use their vertical game because they have so many talented wide receivers. They use their vertical game to open up space, right? If you play in any kind of coverage, a cover two, they attack it. Okay, you play in a Tampa 2. They're going to attack it using their vertical concepts, and Carolina didn't give them any of that. And Carson Palmer, for all of how well he's been playing this season and how good he's been, the truth about Carson Palmer is that yesterday he forced things. He tried to use the usual Arizona vertical concepts, and he forced things that weren't there. And there was a point in the game where there's like a glimmer of hope where you were like, it would be nice to see this game swing back in the other direction, into a direction that is even mildly entertaining. What was happening at halftime was like, how long until the X-Files comes on? Because like this game is over. Okay. That's where we're at right now. That's where we're at right now. Because the game was thrown away by Carson Palmer. He tried to do too much, and he didn't have to. That defense is good enough, okay? And while, like, here's the thing. The Panthers hung 50 on the Cardinals. But I don't think they wouldn't have hung 50 on the Cardinals if Carson Palmer played within the offense. I think the Panthers still win that game. But Carson Palmer tried to do so much, he gave the Panthers about 3 or 4 more possessions than what they actually had. Not just possessions, like really good field position. And the Panthers, the way that they play, hey, that field position thing is real. They will run the ball down your throat. Cam Newton was taken off on designed runs, and people couldn't tackle him. You had people bouncing off of him like bullets on Superman. And the most entertaining thing about that game was the Batman versus Superman commercials. All right, that's the most entertaining thing about that game. I want to see the Man of Steel fight Batman. That's it. That's all I got. Okay, that's all I got. Because there's nothing about that game that interested me except those commercials and Cam Newton himself. Cam Newton is so much fun to watch because he's just crazy. Like he just does the dances, the overall bravado. And there was a time where people thought Cam Newton was going to be a flop in the NFL. Before I get into all of that, I got to tell you, you're listening to Hot News Talk Radio, AM 1240. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. That's me. And breaking down the AFC and NFC championship games from yesterday. You can listen to us on YouTube, hotnewstalkradio.com. You can find us on Facebook and Twitter. We'd love to hear from you and interact with you. I go through the comments every day or every other day or so. And it's great to talk to people, and the stuff that we've been hearing, it's been great. I mean, we got a lot of smart, intelligent listeners, not just as sports fans, but if you listen to the David Tulis show, if you listen to Binary, I mean, we know you're smart. We know you're smart. That's why you're here. We're trying not to water anything down. So give us a look. AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. Tell all your friends about it. Cam Newton, when he came into the league, the thing is he's such a fixture now. Like he's been so good this season, and he was so much better than he had been last season even. Like you're looking at Cam Newton and you're going, this guy's the real deal. But when he first came out, he wasn't like just the gimme favorite. Like, oh, Cam Newton, he's going to be great. He's the number 1 overall pick. And I think looking back on that, that's deceiving because we've had a lot of number 1 overall picks in the NFL wash out. Okay, we've just had some guys where, we're not sure about you. Jameis Winston, Andrew Luck, these guys are the exception, not the rule. Going back at highly drafted quarterbacks in the last few years, the fact that Cam Newton came out of there as a hit is incredible. And there are people that wrote tons of things about Cam Newton. That when he was in Florida and he stole the laptop, there was obviously questions about his character, which I think are fair questions to ask. There were unfair questions about his character. If you recall the story that broke a couple of weeks ago, where Cam Newton was apparently interviewed by one of the teams before the draft, and I forget which team, and I could find that for you over the break. But Cam was interviewed by one of the teams, and the The team interviewer asked him a question, and this is the silliest nonsense I've ever heard in my life. Asked him a question. Do you see yourself as more of a dog or a cat? And I'm guessing that you're trying to figure out what the personality is in there. Do you see yourself as loyal, so you choose a dog? Do you see yourself as stubborn, so you choose a dog? Do you see yourself as aloof, so you choose a cat? I don't know what the rationale there is. The Cam Newton being Cam Newton because he is an individual. Okay, to say whatever you want about Cam. Cam is going to do what he says he's going to do. He's going to do his own thing. So Cam answers the question. I don't really see myself as either of those. I see myself as more of a human being, which seems like a fair way to answer that particular question, right? Like there's nothing wrong about choosing that set of words to answer that question. I don't see myself as a dog or a cat. I am a human. I see myself as a human. You know, walks upright, got posable thumbs, frontal lobes, higher level brain function. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. Why? And then you know what the interviewer asked him? You got a problem with authority? No, he just sees himself as a human being. So when you have questions about Cam's character in that regard, that's unfair. And then, of course, there was questions about Cam's intelligence, which I find to be ridiculous. But at the same time, I understand that because you're trying to figure out if a guy can process an NFL offense at high speed. It's really not intelligence. It's just raw computational ability. You know, John Gruden on ESPN, he does the quarterback camp, and he was asking Cam Newton about the different kinds of plays. What kind of verbiage are you going to use if they ask you to call a spider 2Y banana? What does that mean? All of this stuff. And Cam was like, look, at Auburn, we kept it simple. We had a play card that said one. One had a play that only had one meaning. We do this. Okay. And I saw Cam Newton in college the same as everybody down here. Okay. Cam Newton did some things that weren't very nice to people on the football field. He made a lot of people look really, really bad, but the fear about dual threat quarterbacks is that they're more likely to run than they are to pass. Will they understand the game? Will they acquire the knowledge at the highest level? And I mean, it's still a worry. Cam is like the one guy that worked out, but we're looking at RG3. We're looking at Colin Kaepernick. We're looking at Tim Tebow as guys that did not. Okay, really athletic guys who everyone was high on early on. They just didn't work out. Okay, I mean, even a guy like Michael Vick way back in the day where Michael Vick could scorch you with his legs, but you were still not sure if Michael Vick could tear you apart mentally. And it wasn't until Michael Vick went to prison and came back that he had that commitment to learning his progressions, going through his progressions and doing things like that. It wasn't until Michael Vick came back for the Eagles that he really was that. You know what I mean? So the fact that Cam ended up working out the way that he did, we all didn't know. And it's great because one of my favorite websites is Bleacher Report. Now I'm a fan of Bleacher Report because Bleacher Report's got good writers on it. But Bleacher Report went out and hired a bunch of guys that really know what they're talking about, that really know how to write. But Bleacher Report initially was just a fan site. Like fan writers showed up, wrote stuff, and you could write whatever you want. Okay? And I used to hate Bleacher Report for that. Like completely unqualified people would go on Bleacher Report and write stuff and just be completely wrong. And they had no way to back it up. It was just random opinions of fans. And there's nothing wrong with that, okay? Like, you don't have to be an analyst. Like, being in front of a microphone does not make you smarter than somebody who's not in front of a microphone. But when someone is willing to pay you to do a job, they have a little bit more faith that you're going to do some research, that you're going to keep your emotions out of it, that you're actually going to try and give an unbiased take. You're not going to stand there and just go with your feelings. You hate Cam Newton, so you're going to rip Cam Newton. And that's what happened. There was a Bleacher Report article when Cam Newton got drafted declaring that Cam Newton was going to be a bust. I'm going to read it on the other side of the break. It's the greatest thing I've ever read. I wish we could track this guy down and find him and make him do the stuff that he said that he would do. if Cam Newton ever made the playoffs. Not even if he won a Super Bowl, made it to a Super Bowl. Stuff that he said Cam Newton, he would do if Cam Newton ever made the playoffs. If Cam Newton is in the playoffs in 2016, he said, actually, he said if Cam Newton's a starting quarterback in 2016, there was some stuff that he was going to do there. I want to track this guy down and like find him and make him do the things that he said that he was going to do. Which I'll tell you what that is on the other side of this break. You're listening to Clutch with Keon Rose on AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
I'm blowing everything up. We're starting over. I'm doing a new show. I want guys who push it to the middle of the table and go over the top. Take a risk, fail miserably. I'm right, and I'm not wrong, and I'll never back down. Conflict works. Allow it.
It's The Herd with Colin Cowherd. Right here and everywhere. Noon Eastern.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds. We'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
On your signature, you can get $150,000. Can you believe that? $150,000 on your signature. Hi, I'm Bruce Krebs with the Entrepreneur Source. There's a program right now that you can get $150,000 on your signature with no pledge of collateral or personal guarantee. Call me at 423-875-5621 to learn more. 423-875-5621. You've been thinking about starting a business and becoming self-sufficient. Don't do it on your own. I have a proven track record for the last 13 years. 96% success rate. I can guide you into a franchise where you will pay yourself through the startup phase with very low or little risk. Call me now. I'm Bruce Krebs at 423-875-5621. 875-5621. And make sure to listen to the Entrepreneur Hour every other Wednesday from 11 to 12 o'clock here at AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. Call me now, 875-5621.
You need a place for your party or maybe a wedding reception for 100 or even more. Maybe you'd like to host a small trade show for your business and you need a very affordable venue. Are you looking for a place for your birthday gala or services to start up a church? Look no further than the Hidden Gem in Hickson. It's an overlooked, newly appointed reception hall right here in Hickson, Tennessee. Big space, small price. That's right, big space, small price. Call Mr. Chu and ask for a tour. 316-7388. That's 423-316-7388. He'll tell you a lot more about the venue. Rent this venue today. Just call 423-316-7388 and ask for Mr. Chu.
While politicians debate climate change and taking our guns, they leave America vulnerable to disaster. You need to act now to keep your family safe and prepared. Do you have an emergency plan? Do you have long-term storage food? Do you have the skills and mindset to survive a disaster? If not, what are you waiting for? Call P5 Preparedness right now, 423-602-2175. Do you honestly think the government is going to help you? If you do, you are wrong, dead wrong. Don't get caught unprepared. Let the experts at P5 Preparedness get you ready for any emergency or disaster situation. Today, we offer a wide range of classes for the beginner on how to prepare as well as the expert prepper. We stock a wide range of supplies, including long-term storage food, water filtration, outdoor gear, tactical gear, and plate carriers. P5 Preparedness, East Brainerd Road between I-75 and Gun Barrel Road. You will see the Army Deuce and a Half truck, 423-602-2175, 1309 Panorama Drive, Chattanooga, P5Preparedness.com.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
More clouds are rolling through the nighttime hours. Not as cold. Lows into the lower 40s. Can't rule out a late shower. For Tuesday, rain will pour in from the south and west. Pretty wet for the afternoon. Highs of around 50 for the midweek. Gradually drying out with some sunshine returning, but chilly highs, lower 40s. Check out Hamilton Medical Center in Dalton. Proud to be named #1 by CareChex for medical excellence and overall hospital care in the Northwest Georgia and Chattanooga region. And I'm Source 12's Chief Meteorologist Patrick Ward.
On AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio.
When the weather turns bad, turn to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio. On the net, hotnewstalkradio.com. Follow us on Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook. From the Hot News Talk Radio Weather Center. Chattanooga, we've got you covered. When the weather turns bad, the Tennessee Valley turns to Hot News Talk Radio.
Go, 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 go,
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.
This is incredible. This article, I looked it back up. It's the Cam Newton is the worst NFL draft pick ever, is the name of the article on BleacherReport.com. It was written May 9th, 2011. So again, hindsight is 2020. You can look back at something and go, okay, yeah, we should have known better than to draft this guy, or we should have drafted this guy. But then there's some stuff that you just know, like drafting Cam Newton wasn't a no-brainer, but at the same time, it was worth the risk of drafting him, right? Same thing with Robert Griffin III and the Redskins. It didn't work out. Fortunately for them, they drafted another quarterback in that draft. That ended up working out a little bit for him. Robert Griffin didn't end up working out. It started to, though, right? There are question marks about him. There were question marks about Robert Griffin III coming out of college. There's no such thing as the perfect quarterback prospect. The closest we've ever seen is Luck, where universally everyone was like, this guy is the guy. And even those weird, stupid reports that try and manipulate other teams and manipulate fans into thinking, having doubt and thinking that maybe this guy is maybe not the best fit for our team, like that, nobody was falling for that with Andrew Luck. The scouting reports with the doubts about Andrew Luck. Well, maybe Andrew Luck holds onto the ball too long and all that stuff. Like he does. That is an actual fact about him. But that wasn't going to change the fact that he was the best player in that draft. Right? So Cam Newton getting drafted number 1 overall makes sense. Even in retrospect, even when you don't have the mindset of now, looking back then, it wasn't a no-brainer that you would draft Cam. But also, drafting Cam made sense because every team needs a quarterback. He was the best available one. The stuff that he did to LSU was not nice. It was unfair. It was cruel. He dragged a team to a national championship kicking and screaming. That team didn't want to win that game. Cam wanted them to win that game, so they won that game. Like I've never seen a person take over a national title game like that since Vince Young did it against USC. The Southern California Trojans, not the South Carolina Gamecocks. It's been a while. It had been a while. And I haven't seen it since. I haven't seen a guy take over a game quite like that since. Right? Been a while. So this guy in 2011 writes an article, why Carolina Panthers' new quarterback is the worst NFL draft pick ever. And this is why Bleacher Report used to be awful. And I usually don't do this. I usually don't read whole articles on the air. But this is so asinine and so ridiculous and preposterous from the beginning to the end that I have to read the whole thing. I was going to summarize it. I usually summarize these. Not summarizing this one. I can summarize the point of the article, but I cannot summarize all of the stupid contained therein. The guy who wrote this article, his name is Jim Folsom, wrote it in May 9th, 2011, and this is how it goes. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio, Clutch with Keon Rose. Cam Newton is a surefire bust. I am so certain of this, that if he is the Panthers starting quarterback in 2016, I will buy a Cam Newton jersey and stand in the stadium parking lot in my underwear when the Panthers come to Tampa Bay and hold a sign proclaiming that Auburn rules over Florida and Carolina rules over Tampa Bay. So we're off to a great start. This guy will be long gone by then. Here are just a few of the reasons why I believe he will make Ryan Leaf only the second biggest draft bust in history. Cam Newton has not enough experience at starting quarterback to warrant a number 1 pick. He only really played 1 year of meaningful college football. Yes, it was a fantastic year. Yes, his team went undefeated and won it all, but it was still only 1 year. How do we know that it wasn't a fluke? How do we know that Auburn didn't win because of a fantastic supporting cast? because that fantastic supporting cast was awful. There wasn't a fantastic. What are you talking about, man? He says we don't. Number 2, Cam Newton has never lost a game as a starting quarterback. Wouldn't it be nice to know how he will react when he does lose a game? Because in the NFL, it won't take long. Is he going to learn from his mistakes? Is he going to repeat them? Or will he go all Vince Young and threaten to hurt himself? Will he lose confidence? We don't know. Sure, it would be nice to know these things before using the number 1 pick. So his arguments against Cam are already just things that we don't know. His arguments against Cam are we don't know and we don't know. There's no concrete evidence there. There's no concrete anything that says this is why you shouldn't draft Cam. And number 3, Cam Newton is no brainiac. From all accounts, he came off as an idiot on John Gruden's show on ESPN. He looked as if he had no idea what was going on. He was stumped by Gruden's questions. Some even said he looked bored. Did he get by at Auburn on sheer athletic ability? Of course he did. He's a freak athlete. Most of his yardage was gained by running the football. But this is the NFL. You had better be able to read defenses, pick up blitzes, recognize different coverages, etc., or you will not last long. But you can learn to do these things. That's the issue here, that this article assumes that Cam is not capable of learning. Which, that's just not fair or very nice of a thing to assume about a person. There are many people alleging the real Cam Newton left the University of Florida was not, the real reason Cam Newton left the University of Florida was not because he was caught with a stolen laptop computer, but because he was caught with papers written by other students. Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but before I use the number 1 pick on this guy, I'd sure want to consider the possibility that it could be true. If so, what does it tell us? It tells us that he is not smart enough to do his own work and get a passing grade. But you expect him to outsmart guys like Dick LeBeau? That's not what that says. It just says that he's a cheater and that he thinks that cheating in that situation was going to do better for him than doing his own work. It could prove anything from laziness to this whole thing here is just, there's no concrete evidence. It's all I guess circumstantial, as the lawyers would say. And so like the fact of the matter is his reasons for why Cam Newton is a surefire bust aren't even surefire reasons. And it's the funniest thing I've ever read. Like reading it back today, there's nothing more laughable than that. That's the most laughable thing ever. Every now and then you just read it again. In fact, go back and read old scouting reports of players that succeeded. They're hilarious in retrospect, but this is one of the worst because of how extreme it was. Here's his number 5 reason. Cam cannot hit the broadside of a barn with a football. All other issues aside, isn't the number 1 job of an NFL quarterback to complete passes. Did you NFL guys not watch the BCS title game? How many touchdowns did Cam leave on the table by missing receivers who were running free? That game should not even have been close. Well, in fairness, because of Cam's legs, they were in a game that they should not even have been playing in. You replace Cam with an average passing quarterback, Auburn's not even close. They didn't even sniff the game. How can an NFL franchise waste the number 1 pick on a guy with this many question marks? Last year, all we heard was how Tim Tebow was not worth risking a first-round pick because of his throwing motion. Not just the top pick, but anywhere in the top 32. Name another issue with Tebow. Character? Please. Intelligence? No. Accuracy? He says not really, but that actually is an issue with Tebow. That always was. Yet somehow, because he came from a spread system, he was deemed unworthy of a top pick. Guess what system Cam came from? So how is it we go from Tebow sucks to Cam is awesome in 1 year when the 2 guys played on the same team for 2 years? Cam was the one riding the bench while Tebow was breaking records and winning championships. So how is it that the treatment of Cam by the draft people is 180 degrees different than Tebow's? I don't know. Let's ask the Denver Bronco fans if they'd like to trade Tebow for Newton straight up. They would laugh in your face. Football fans know even if the experts have no clue. We can spot a fraud when we see one. In 5 years, when Tebow is leading Denver into the playoffs and Cam Newton is riding someone's bench, remember this article. Oh, don't worry, Mr. Folsom. I haven't forgotten your article. I haven't forgotten it at all, as Cam Newton leads the Panthers into the playoffs against the Denver Broncos, who are led by Peyton Manning because Tim Tebow's not in the league anymore. This is how this works. This is why fans, we're too passionate most of the time to separate ourselves from our arguments. And then we say stuff like this, put it up on the internet where it's stored forever, for all of mankind to laugh at. I'll put the link on the Facebook page tonight. Just think about that. And this guy is not alone, by the way. Sure, there were a lot of critics of Cam. I don't think anybody was as extreme as this guy in terms of putting it into print. But I talked to a lot of fans during that time. A lot of people were worried about Cam Newton and if he was going to be able to make it at the next level as a quarterback. And here's the thing, right? Like I'm a Redskins fan. What this means is that every year, basically until this season, and with the exception of this season and 2012, when Robert Griffin III was at his best, every year I'm evaluating quarterbacks because every year the Redskins might end up drafting one. And it would be good to know who is good and who is not good. So I do everything. I watch the combine. I watch the pro days. I do all of this stuff. So I watched Cam Newton's pro day. And it was Cam Newton's pro day that convinced people like, okay, maybe this guy can throw the ball well enough to be a quarterback in the NFL. His release was tight, quick. He throws the ball like nobody's business. He flings it. He's got a strong arm. I mean, in terms of just arm strength, the three best guys in the league that I've seen so far that like just currently playing in the league right now: Rodgers, Kaepernick, Newton. Arm strength. I mean, Roethlisberger's up there too. He's just got a strong arm to the point where he's falling over and he's still got enough arm strength to just rip it up the field. And people looked at that and thought, well, you know what? This Cam guy, he might be pretty decent after all. He might be pretty decent after all. You're listening to AM 1240 Hot News Talk Radio Clutch with Keon Rose. I'm Keon Rose. And it's interesting because Cam Newton is a guy that all of the Auburn fans, and here's the thing, like, you do this in college. When a guy is really good in college, you root for him in the pros, especially if it's a guy on your team. He played at your college team, you just kind of root for him in the pros. I did that with Vince Young. I'm a Longhorn fan. So Vince Young made it into the NFL. I rooted for him for as long as he was there. I watched a lot of Titans games. That's where I developed a kind of love for the Titans. I really like them. Vince Young won a lot of amazing, electrifying games for the Titans, and I rooted for him because he played at the school that I liked. You know, so Cam's got a lot of fans. And Peyton's got a lot of Tennessee fans. And you see the 18 jerseys around here. I mean, it makes me happy. I'm a huge fan of that. You know, like who you want to like. And I'm not an old fart, okay? There are old curmudgeons that say get off my lawn. I don't like this generational thing. Grown men shouldn't wear jerseys. Don't wear your cap backwards. Stop trying to legislate people's lives, you old fogey. Listen, if someone wants to wear a jersey, that's not the most ridiculous thing a person could wear. I was at Red Robin yesterday, like I said, watching the game. There was a guy with a pink mohawk. That is easily the most outrageous thing I've seen in the last 48 hours in terms of a person's sense of style. How are you getting all up in arms over a jersey? It's a shirt with meaning. Sure, a very specific meaning of a very specific person. So, how is that any less stupid than people who wear Coca-Cola shirts, or people who wear Mountain Dew shirts, or people who wear Nike shirts? You just paid money to a sponsor to wear their logo on you. The company didn't pay you. You paid the company. And now you're wearing their logo on you. How is that any dumber than wearing a Peyton Manning jersey? If you like Peyton Manning, go out and get yourself a Denver Broncos 18. There's nothing wrong with that. If you like Cam, go out and get yourself a Cam. Get yourself a number 1 jersey. There's nothing wrong with that. Or whatever jersey you want to wear. I recommend Julio Jones, but that's just me. Wear whatever jersey you want. Wear jerseys. I don't care if you're 40, you're 26, you're 13, or you're 72. If you want to wear a jersey, you wear a jersey. Here's the thing. Buzz Aldrin went to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game earlier this season. He wore a jersey. He's like one of the most American people ever. You don't know who Buzz Aldrin was? He was the second guy to step on the moon after Armstrong. If a jersey is good enough for Buzz Aldrin, jersey's good enough for me. Come on. It's like I've been hearing that argument since I was a kid. I've been listening to sports talk radio my whole life, and I have been waiting my whole life to be the one guy that defends people who wears jerseys. I don't wear my jersey everywhere. I wear my jersey on game day, and I usually wear it to the place that I plan on watching the game. But if you want to wear your jersey wherever, it doesn't matter what age you are. There's nothing. What is wrong with wearing a jersey? That you're wearing another man's name on yourself? Okay. You buy a Coca-Cola t-shirt, you're wearing a company's name on yourself, and what's more, you paid the company to do it. How's the IQ on that one working out for you? Come on. That doesn't even make sense as an argument. So got Cam Newton, who apparently defied the odds to get here. Defied the odds. Tim Tebow should have been here leading the Broncos, not Cam Newton leading the Panthers. But no, he defied the odds, and now he's here. And it's an interesting thing to me because we're talking about a guy like Cam Newton being the future of the NFL, and Cam Newton and Russell Wilson are basically the only two guys that worked out that way. There were a number of the quote-unquote dual threat guys drafted, and Cam and Russell are really the only two that worked out. And for me, I'm not even so sure about Russell. I think Russell Wilson landed on a team with a really great defense, and he got to play game manager in season 1. And as he learned the offense, he had enough time to develop. I think if Russell Wilson lands on the Cleveland Browns, Russell Wilson's a Washington Redskin, Russell Wilson is an Oakland Raider, I think those teams don't have the patience to develop. They give up on you long before Russell Wilson gets to be good enough to be Russell Wilson now. I think Russell Wilson's good now. I didn't think his rookie season, he was solid. Russell Wilson wasn't great as a rookie. He was just solid. And then he was very clutch. He was able to close out games. That he did a great job of doing that. I think you could have put Cam Newton on any team in this league. And if you had given him enough time to learn and develop, you would have ended up with the Cam Newton we have now because he's so confident in himself and what he's able to do. But there was a time when we thought all the players in the league were going to look like Cam. And we've only got one. We've only got one Cam and a Russell Wilson. Cam is making that superstar leap. I don't think Russell's ever going to make the leap to superstar. He's a quarterback, so he's going to be a star. He's going to be really good, but Russell's not going to be superstar. We've only got one Cam. For all the talk that we had in the mid-2000s about how the dual threat quarterback is taking over the league and how electrifying the Michael Vick experience was, which if you haven't lived through that, and if you didn't live through that, and I think I'm just old enough to have seen it and been able to appreciate it. If you didn't get to live through that, you don't know. Michael Vick took off and people just couldn't catch him. It just was unbelievable. He was like one guy just taking over a game on sheer speed. And Cam Newton is the closest we've been since. At the quarterback position, he is the closest we've gotten, which is insane. And then on the other hand, you have Peyton Manning, who is basically the living dead at this point. Peyton Manning should be on The Walking Dead. And not as a cameo, he should be there as himself. The characters on that show wouldn't know what to do. They wouldn't be able to trust him. Is this guy alive or is he a zombie? I don't know. He's having trouble turning his neck towards me. Does that make him a zombie? He's got hamstring problems, back problems, neck problems, nerve damage, plantar fasciitis in his foot. Peyton Manning is a zombie. And he's just walking along right now, just marching. You can't kill him. I don't know whether to call Peyton Manning a zombie or the Terminator, because you can't kill him. He's just marching forward. Yeah, okay, I missed 7 weeks this season, but I'm going to show right back up and act like nothing's changed. It's crazy. He's 39 years old. He is now the oldest quarterback to ever play in a Super Bowl. And by the way, he's going to get enough rest that he's going to look pretty decent on Super Bowl Sunday. Peyton can't make all the throws, but he can make most of them. Go back and look at the first half of that game. He looked really good in the first half of that game. And guess what? The Super Bowl is just one game. 9 times out of 10, if the Panthers play the Broncos, I think that the Panthers beat the Broncos 9 times out of 10. I think that they win 4-1 in a best-of-7 series. I do. But you're telling me that the Broncos and Peyton Manning can't beat the Panthers in a game? They can beat them in a game. It's going to have to be a weird, fluky, low-scoring game. But they can beat them for a game. Of course they can. And by the way, that defense is annoyingly good enough. This Super Bowl is not going to be a shootout. Don't sit down in front of your TV and expect a shootout. Don't drive in your car and listen to the Super Bowl here on Hot News Talk Radio, home of Super Bowl 50 in Chattanooga, and expect a shootout. It's not happening. You understand? It's not happening. These two defenses are too good. Cam's got his limitations as a quarterback. Peyton's got way more limitations as a quarterback because he's ancient. Do not expect a shootout in this game. There's no elite receiver. Okay, wait, hold on. Check that. The Broncos have an elite receiver, and Peyton can't throw it to him because literally he can't throw the ball that far. It's just not possible. We're just talking about Peyton Manning's decline, and we're not talking about all the things that he can do, which is beat you with his mind. And also, since we're talking about Peyton Manning's decline, and I understand that I have gone off the reservation now, and I'm just ranting at the first thing that pops into my brain. But seriously, we've been talking about how Peyton Manning's been declining for the last couple of years. Peyton is not way older than Tom Brady. I think that Tom Brady is an attractive man, and that is the reason why we seem to forget that Tom looks like he's 5 years younger than Peyton. I'm just going to say it. Tom looks like he's 5 years younger than Peyton. He's not. He's a year younger, okay? Manning was drafted in 99. Brady was drafted in 2001. Okay, there's not a huge gap there. It's not a giant window. And I think that that's what makes their story great. We're talking about Peyton Manning and Tom Brady and how this might be the last chapter between the two of them, and we're talking about it like we're just going to have millions and millions of years of Brady. Tom Brady hasn't thrown the ball 20 yards down the field this whole season. When Tom Brady makes a 20-yard pass, look and see what that pass is. It's usually like a 10-yard pass to Gronk, and then it's another 10 yards before you can tackle Gronk. Tom Brady's been in decline too, fellas. Folks, Tom Brady has been in decline as well. And Peyton just looks older, and his injuries are more publicized because he has more of them. Tom's fading. We don't have 6 more years of Tom Brady. I don't care what Tom Brady wrote in his email about how he feels like Peyton's at the end of the road and he could play. We don't have 5 more years of Tom. We've got like 2. And it's going to be like it always is in the NFL. You can play great. You're the greatest until you aren't. And then you just look dreadful. He's going to fall off a cliff. They all do. It happened to Montana. It happened to Namath. It happened to Manning. It's going to happen to Brady. It's going to happen to everybody. One day, a million years in the future, it's going to happen to Cam too. This is AM 1240, Hot News Talk Radio. You've been listening to Clutch with Keon Rose. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you all in 24 hours. Remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. Stay clutch.
You give us 12 minutes and 40 seconds, we'll give you Chattanooga and the world.
News Talk 1240.